right. Are you over 18, and do you
Yes,
disagree with
sir.
something I have on the board?
Yeah, I'm over 18, but
All right, you are over 18. Give me a second. I gotta just bring something up here. All right, cool. You are over 18, and you disagree with something I have on the board. What do you disagree with, and why? Let's talk for about 15 minutes.
I mean, I'm agreeable with almost everything. Reparations, that too, right? I mean,
You say you agree or you disagree?
Yeah, I'm kind abortion rights, except abortion rights, but I'm not agreeable with the abortion rights.
Oh, you don't agree with abortion rights?
Oh, correct.
All right, cool. Why is that?
Why is that?
Yes.
Because it's basically a life in the belly of a female carrying a life, and she has a responsibility on the society. She cannot just expect herself to express her full authority when she's pregnant. She has to know what's her responsibility, what's her natural responsibilities, and what's her responsibility over the society.
Who decides what her natural responsibility is?
I think the society, because today we are a community of group, right? We decide what's right and wrong based on a group. The government legislates, right? And we gather, we decide which laws are right. And I think similarly, we should actually look into this abortion if it's actually in the benefit of the society or the benefit of that's life, right?
Gotcha. All right. Well, there are some things that I do understand that, society as a whole would say that, yes, this is your responsibility. Like for example, like driving on the road. Yeah, you're responsible to not be drunk because you're going to harm other people, right? So we do have societal responsibilities as an example. However, we also decide as a society that we all have rights that are basically inalienable, that are inherent, such as the right to self-defense and the right to your own body, the right to yourself, the right to do what you would like to please with your own body, of course within limits, because the rights to for me to swing my hands, it stops at your face, right? So that's what we usually always say. When it comes to abortion rights, that's the ultimate like bodily autonomy right. Like she has a right to do what she would like with her own body. Now, This is what I would say. We should prioritize when after viability, for example, around 21, 22 weeks, we should prioritize the life of what's growing inside of her, because at that point it does have a sentient experience.
Interesting.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so like at that point, I would say if abortion is going to happen, that's because we're going to either save the mother, or we're going to try to keep the fetal matter or the baby in there. We're going to try to keep that part alive.
Okay, so
because at that point, it's actual sensual life.
So how many weeks you've decided? So 21 weeks? How much is that?
Around 21, 22.
So, what, 6 months? Or 5 months?
I think that's around 5.
So 5 months. I think it's good that you at least agree on a common ground with people who are against abortion, at least if we can come in an agreement that, but brother, sometimes today, because of this full authority given to women, right, she will tell you, I have the right to abort at any time. Mm-hmm. Who are you to tell me when the life is more relevant? You're saying 6 months? I say 9 months. Mm-hmm. I say when she gets, or is it 1 month, or is it 2 months? So what's the criteria that you follow to arrive to 21 weeks? And I'm wondering, I'm very curious about that. Do you have any scientific data or something? That's
the criteria I follow is basically that's around the time when we know that the brain is growing and it has actual conscious experience. Because, for example, when someone is like completely brain dead, right? Like there's no brain activity, there's no oxygen, there's nothing going on. We know that the person is completely brain dead. Typically, we're going to tell the person to pull the plug because the person is dead. There's nothing there, right? Around 21, 22 weeks, that's when, the brain is at the stage of forming. But it can also have like its own personal conscious experience. So at that point, that's when I think a unique individual is there. And we shouldn't violate the rights of that unique individual. So that's why I'd say I'll cut it off around that point. Now, when it comes to abortions, there are actual like from what I've known, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there are abortion methods that can actually keep the baby alive. There are abortion methods that they'll just end the pregnancy, but like the baby alive will actually still be alive. You don't have to, chop it up or whatever. You see what I'm saying? So it's not really a compromise on my end. If a woman wants to induce her pregnancy at 7 months because she just doesn't want to be pregnant anymore, she has a right to induce it in 7 months. We just shouldn't, do something that terminates that life, because at 7 months, it's its own separate personal being. You feel me? If she doesn't want it anymore, cool, give it up for adoption and induce it in 7 months. But we don't need to terminate that. Terminate the baby. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. I understand your logic, but I would like to say much more things than this. And I apologize. I gotta go, brother. I'm gonna follow you. All right. I'm interested to have a discussion about this next time. Okay.
Hey, not a problem. I appreciate you being up.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, y'all. W for serving of the merciful. All right, y'all. Appreciate all y'all being in here. If you disagree with something I have on the board, the rules of my live is I don't like talking to the comments. So if you comment something, I'm probably not going to see it, because again, I'm talking to somebody else, and I just don't like going back and forth with the comments unless I have a topic of, ask me anything or anything like that. Then I'll talk to the comments. But anything other than that, y'all please just request and come on up, because I'm not going to see your comment. You feel me? All right, Mark, how's it going? Are you over 18, and do you disagree with something I have on the board?
Yo, what's up? I'm 19, so.
Cool.
Sorry, were you saying something?
No, not a problem. Do you disagree with anything I have on the board?
I mean, I'm just curious. So, like, for reparations, what exactly do you entail with that?
Reparations would be systemic and monetary change to, excuse me, systemic change, monetary change to what and rectifying what happened to the African American community, because the government was involved in damaging the community financially, politically, and socially. So because of that, it was not only just done through slavery, but also actions through the war on drugs, redlining, black codes, Jim Crow, et cetera, et cetera. These things all affected African Americans, not only back then, but still today. Redlining is something that we're still dealing with. For example, if you think about the worst neighborhoods in America right now, who are predominantly African American, I guarantee you 100% that they were a red line neighborhood. So we know that the projects in the hood and all contemporary issues tie back to redlining, and it's still an issue that not only affects us today, but still even happens today. Several banks have been sued for racial discrimination and mortgage practice, for racial discrimination and steering African Americans to go to other neighborhoods. Those are practices that happened during redlining. You see what I'm saying? So several banks have been sued for doing it. So it's something that still happens, and it's something that affected African American wealth, affected their schooling, affected health. Even environmental racism ties into this, because, for example, right now, the data center for Grok, Elon Apartheid's, AI machine, it's in Memphis, and it's near a black neighborhood, and it's poisoning the water over there. That's what environmental racism is, and that is actually something that came from redlining, because the government allowed businesses to dump their toxins into these neighborhoods because they were redlined. You see what I'm saying? So all of this affects the African American community, and that's what we need to rectify. You see what I'm saying? Not just system, and not only that, I would say those type of systemic changes would not only benefit black people in this country, it would benefit everybody. Because if Elon Musk didn't put that data center in Memphis near a black neighborhood, he probably would have put it near a poor white neighborhood, because we don't care about poor whites either in this country, largely. You know what I'm saying? Like, poors are at the bottom. It's just black people are more likely to be poor. You see what I'm saying? So if we do all these systemic changes, it will not only be good for black Americans, it would also be good for all of America, because all of us will be better off if the ones who are poorer are also better off. Make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So, like, I have a couple questions, I guess. So, do you think that, like, for redlining, I guess, would that only apply to African Americans, or you think that anybody that was affected by that could also?
African Americans were the only group of people who were redlined. No one else was.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
we can say Native Americans were put into reservations, so that's a whole nother topic of them, getting land back and stuff like that. I don't know too much about land back, so I can't answer that. But redlining was something that only affected African Americans, because if you were a white person who lived in a red line neighborhood and you wanted to get out, you were able to get that loan. A black person cannot. So it was only something that targeted and affected African Americans.
Well, so I mean, I think so when like Italian and Irish immigrants came over in like the early 1900s. I mean, I think the general consensus at the time was that they weren't white people. Like I'm pretty sure at the time, like the way we defined race wasn't exactly the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm pretty sure they like when Italians came over. I mean, they're pretty dark. If like I think that's why, and they didn't view Italians as whites.
Mm-hmm.
So like for example, my great grandfather, Italian immigrant, he comes over and the part of Philly that he lived in was like the Italian section, and there's the Irish section, there was the black section, there was a Polish, and I mean I guess they could have moved to a different ethnic like section, but it was pretty much like they were kind of forced into those areas because you weren't going to get those kind of, I mean, like you said, the loans and all that kind of stuff in another area. So I'm like, what do you think about that? Like for those kind of people?
Yeah, Irish and Italians were discriminated against in this country, right? Because we have a nebulous idea of what white actually is. Have you ever heard the book How the Irish Became White?
I have not.
Yeah. All right. So that book actually lays out exactly what you're talking about, how they came into this country discriminated against. But after a while, once the Irish people took on anti-black racist views, they were allowed to be white. And they were actually, and we know this as a way because there's a tradition, especially in the Northeast, of Irish people becoming cops, right? Back then, and we can still argue still today, police officers were only there to basically keep black people under control. You see what I'm saying? And the Irish were allowed to do that because they took on these racist views. A perfect example of this, as a matter of fact, is a cartoon called "This Is the White Man's Government." If you Google that right now, you would see like a white American person, a Catholic person, and an Irish person all stomping on a black person. You know what I'm saying? Because they wanted the Irish to side more with white supremacy than they would with black people at that time, even though the Irish were just as poor. You see what I'm saying? So, like, the same thing happened to Italians. So I'm not denying that there was discrimination against Italian and Irish around that time. But we do know that Irish and Italian were allowed to be white, and the targeted, deliberate acts to make African Americans poor were not targeted toward Irish and Italians. It just wasn't.
Okay, and then I guess so when these get paid out, like the monetary reparations, how do you plan that would happen? Because I mean, well, I guess how much money do you think that it would like be for each person?
Each person is a good question. I'm not sure because the last proposal I saw, reparations went anywhere from $10 to $60 trillion, right? Which is one of those things where I understand that's damn near impossible to do. That's more money than we have on this planet, right? So if we were at the low end of $10 trillion, each person I'm getting a check is going to be extremely difficult. You see what I'm saying? But I don't mind a check happening, but I think what probably should happen is if checks do go out, it'll probably work in two ways. Either one, a negative income tax, essentially. Basically, all taxes you pay during that year gets rebated back to you. Or two, just a flat-out check like how we did with the Japanese. Each Japanese person that was interned or their descendants was given, I think, $25,000 or $50,000. I think $25,000, which is the equivalent of like I think 50 today, if I'm not mistaken, something like that each year would not be bad towards each family, but you'll have to set up banks, set up administration, set all that up in order for it to happen. So monetary payment is a little bit more nebulous, but there is a way to do it because we've done it before. But the most important part would be systemic changes to the school system, to the criminal justice system, to our environment, etc. Make sense?
Yeah, I mean,
Let's see if I can chime in.
I agree with this with some of the so. I mean, I live right outside Philly, so I definitely see what you mean. Like where the school districts that are in the city are definitely not, receiving the proper, I would say, attention and funds they need to perform well. So yeah, there's this one school district next to me where a lot of the West Philly kids will come over to that school district, like they're kind of lie about their address so they can be part of that school district.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to, go to the school that they're from. And I mean, I think that just definitely, what you said, it definitely shows. Like, it definitely shows that there's a lack of funding in the area. So I think that's somewhere to start. If you ask me, I think you should definitely invest in the school system. That's where it starts at. So, like, if you ask me, I would say, yeah, definitely invest more in inner city schools.
Right. So, investing into inner city schools and looking at the administration, because a lot of that money gets mismanaged, I think, and there are like principals and administrators who get paid like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year that don't deserve it. You see what I'm saying? So definitely taking a look at that, taking a look at those type of changes. Not just giving the school money carte blanche, but making sure that it actually gets to the classroom. You feel me? Because you won't believe how many teachers buy their own products. You know what I'm saying? Buy their own paper and pencils because it doesn't come from the school. It comes out of their own pocket. You see what I'm saying? So I think paying teachers more, having better training, better facilities, and making sure that the money that goes into school doesn't only go into the hands of the administration, but into the teachers and into the actual classroom, instead of the way that we're doing it now. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree because I think that there's definitely a mismanagement of funds across the board, and also it's kind of like a snowball effect, where the conditions worsen and then they only get worse because teachers aren't getting paid enough, and why would they deal with the horrible conditions when they can go move to somewhere else? The kid, like, why would someone go to that school district? So I think definitely, like, you need to reinvest the funds into there, and I think that across the country, the money we put into so many things that shouldn't be put into.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if we actually like fully dedicated ourselves to try and like fixing the way we do that, the way we invest money into certain areas, could definitely fix a lot of these problems.
Oh yeah, definitely. And to me, it's money and making sure that it gets sent to the right place. You know what I mean? All right. But Mark, it is good talking to you. But did you have anything else? Because I wanted to get to the next person.
You're good. Yeah, you're good. That's all.
All right, I appreciate you, Mark. All right, y'all. W Mark in the comments, please. I appreciate anyone who's up here for a good debate and a good discussion. I appreciate you, Mark. All right, Ben, my fan Ben Bram, he's back again, y'all. My friend Ben Bram is back again. Go ahead, tell everybody hi, Ben, because I know you you love me. You love looking at this handsome face. You love being here. Everyone say hi to Ben, y'all. He's the one in pink. He's always here, always loving all my lives, always crashing out in the comments, but he can never have a conversation. Always crashing out. All right, Agbor, how's it going, bro? Give me 1 second, Agbor.
Before Agbo.
Yeah, you were. I got you. Adam, are you over 18, and do you disagree with something I have on the board?
Yes, I do.
Gotcha. Agbor, you are over 18, but I think you're friendly, correct? Or you disagree with something?
I have questions regarding the reparations bit as well. But yeah, overall, my friendly.
Okay, gotcha. Not a problem. Let me talk to Adam first for a little bit. All right. What's his name there? Smedrick. Go ahead and come on up, buddy. Why do y'all always talk to the comments? Oh, yeah, you have 0 followers, so you can't even come on up anyway. All right. Adam, you said you did disagree with something I have on the board. Go ahead and let me know what you disagree with.
Yeah, so primarily two things are free college and guaranteed housing.
Yeah, sure. Why would guaranteed housing be bad? Why shouldn't we guarantee that no one in this country can go homeless?
I think it costs too much money to the taxpayer's expense.
It'll cost $20 billion a year. America spends more than twice that on our military.
Well, I was speaking from a British perspective, but when you say guaranteed housing, do you mean a house for everyone or some kind of shelter for everyone?
Some sort of shelter for everyone. I'm not sure how it's done in the UK. I think you guys have different zoning laws than we have, but here
then I do agree with you. Yeah, then some sort of shelter. Yeah, I agree with. But if you were talking about actually like building specific houses, then yeah. So that clears that up. But free college then is my other contention.
All right, sure. Why shouldn't we? In America, we actually used to have free college. The only reason we don't have it anymore is because Ronald Reagan didn't like black people going to Stanford, so he cut it off, and that's the only reason we don't have free college.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate. I'm a pretty big fan of Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, the neoliberal free market capitalist ideals that they brought into their respective countries. But yeah, the reason why I'm against free college is because I don't believe the taxpayer should fund people's degrees.
You don't believe what should be attached to people's degrees? I'm sorry.
Sorry, my accent might be a bit thick. I said I don't believe the taxpayer should fund people's degrees.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, but see, that's the thing. In America, we used to do that. So what's the only reason that we don't do that anymore is literally because Ronald Reagan was a racist. That's it. That's the only reason we don't do that. You know what I mean? But when it comes to the degrees and stuff like that, right? It's better for society if we have a more educated society, right? If we have more people educated, more people informed, more people being doctors, more people being scientists and things like that, isn't that better for society?
I'd say the vast majority of degrees are useless and don't really inform you or educate you to a high enough standard for the taxpayer to be funding them. If I was to agree with you, I would say like only STEM and law degrees should really be funded by the taxpayer and everything else should be paid for by the individual.
In the United States, the most popular degrees are in STEM.
It's similar here. I think in the UK it's about 50% of people that study STEM and law. However, the other 50% are getting generally worthless degrees. So for the taxpayer to fund the other 50% of useless degrees, I think is a waste of taxpayer money.
Well, here's the thing. STEM and law, you can't run a country off of STEM and law, right? There are people who need to understand how humans work. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to need the humanities sooner or later. You feel me? Like, for example, I have one of my degrees is in political science, right? And people would say that is that if that's a useless degree, but the way that our entire government is set up is ran by political scientists. You see what I'm saying? I know the Magna Carta is one of the things that British law is based off of, right? Or English common law, for example.
So it limited the power of the king, yeah.
Exactly. That's a political science. You see what I'm saying? Like, these type of ideas that we're even talking about right now is a political science. You'll be surprised how much political science is needed in a society. Otherwise, we won't really know how to set it up. You see what I'm saying? So, like, these things are actually needed. Now, my master's degree right now is in clinical mental health. You feel what I'm saying? Now, we all know that war happens. We all know that depression happens. We all know that anxiety happens. Without therapists, how many people are going to be running around, acting a fool because they have no one to guide them through their feelings? You see what I'm saying? So these type of degrees are actually necessary, even though they may seem useless because they're not STEM or law. But again, you can't run a country off of just STEM and law. You need people to understand humans as well.
All right, so I just want to address some of the things you said. So I just searched up percentage of people in the USA that study STEM. It said approximately 20% of college graduates earn STEM degrees. So that's not a majority. And additionally, regarding you saying, your degree having a mental health, something like that, I'd say that is a part of STEM because its mental health is to do with medicine. So I'd say you do fit into that category. So yes, I believe there needs to be, so like those are important degrees, like the humanities and arts, but they are not as fundamental to society as STEM and law. Because see, with these type of degrees, it functions, but STEM and law is what propels humanity forward. It was only through STEM and law that we were able to get to the moon, or it was only through STEM and law that we were able to make the great engine. And there are a lot of things that STEM and law that we have today that we wouldn't have for STEM and law. And you could say the same thing about humanities or arts degrees, but I just find that STEM and law are significantly more important. And people are free to pursue arts and humanities if they want, but I just don't think they should be funded by the taxpayer.
I don't think they're any less important than STEM and law, because just like as you said, you can say the same thing about arts and humanities, how they pushed us forward to over here. A lot of our philosophies, for example, neoliberal capitalism, that's a humanities. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So these are the type of things that these ideas, they all come from the arts and they all come from the humanities, so they're just as important as STEM and law, in my opinion. But when it comes to the taxpayer funding it, we already fund high school and secondary school. You know what I'm saying? The only difference is that in America, at least, the problem that we have an overabundance of people in college who don't need to be there because 40% of people there drop out. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure if it's something in Europe, but I would say that in order to fix that issue, we would just need to do something in high school where in high school, everybody can earn a trade. So if everybody could earn a trade, everybody graduates as, you know, some sort of tradesman in like an electrician or a welder or a CDL or anything like that. A CDL in America is basically a truck driver, but anything like that. So hold on.
He's white though. He's white though. He already knows.
Right. All right. I got you. So things like that, right? Those type of trades would actually lessen the amount of people who go to college and are just not interested, only there because they thought they had to be there. You see what I'm saying? So I think if we mix that, like for example, if we say we have trades in high school and every single high school student graduates with some sort of trade, then we'll have less people going to college who don't need to be there, and then that'll open up the funds in order to pay for college. Because again, we've done it before.
Yeah, I mean, that back then was a very different time today. We're living in a much more globalized world with a much higher amount of net immigration into a first world country such as the United States or Europe. So simply put, it's not sustainable now. But I found your point about the overabundance that's a very good point you made there, because simply put, if you make college free, there's going to be a lot of more people going into a university education, and when there's an oversupply of something, that will obviously bring down the value of it. So the degree will become less valuable since it is being more of them are being put in circulation. So I think putting more people in trade or technical fields right from high school is a much better alternative, and strictly like funding specific degrees such as STEM and law that we need significantly more than arts and humanities. Like, yes, arts and humanities are important, but I believe that a degree in something like engineering is a lot more valuable than a degree in gender studies.
Why do you think
If I can chime in really
Why are you talking to Adam? He clearly doesn't care about your college, master's opinions, whatever. Adam doesn't care.
I've never spoken to Adam.
White supremacist.
I won't say all that.
I'm not white.
Nonchalant
Brown.
personality.
Hold on, everybody pause. Okay, I've never actually spoken to Adam before, so I'm not gonna make any judgments yet. But however, let me just respond to what Adam said. I understand that a degree in engineering, like civil engineering, can build you your city, right? But it's a degrees in the humanities that lets you know that even though civil engineering helps you build a city, it doesn't actually help people want to live in that city. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that, right? In America right now, a lot of the things that we did was build basically concrete jungles. There's highways running through neighborhoods. There's streets outside. There's dangerous streets outside. There's a whole bunch of issues with our neighborhoods, right? And then we start to think about our society. Why are we so disconnected? You feel what I'm saying? When we look at why we're so disconnected, we can look into our neighborhoods to see that the way that it was built, even though it was more aesthetically pleasing for a neighborhood to look that way, it disconnected people. We don't have third spaces anymore. All these suburbs that, I don't know how it is in the UK, but in America.
Who's
give me, hold on, Mouth, give me a second.
You're talking to college, bro.
No, it's fine. I got you. But when it comes to like America, right? There's a huge disconnect in the society, and folks wonder why is that disconnect. You can look at the way that cities and communities are built. It doesn't foster togetherness. It only fosters individualism and having your own space. And then we wonder why we're disconnected. You see what I'm saying, Adam? So, Mouth, hold on.
Hold on, bro.
No. Give me a second, please.
Putting race within your thesis. You can't keep saying we and you black and bald-headed and dark-skinned. You can't keep saying we because on nobody.
All right. So, Adam, do you understand what I mean by that? The humanities is what actually gets you to understand that this is what our disconnect is. Because, like, again, a civil engineer can build you your city or your neighborhood, but it doesn't actually help you to understand how people will interact within that city and neighborhood. That makes sense?
Yes.
Can I add something to that?
Give me 1 second, T. I'm gonna let Adam go, and then I'm gonna let you respond, and then Agbor had a question, so I'm gonna get to him. Go ahead, Adam. Respond for
Yeah,
that.
so, in regards to individualism, I personally see no issue with people prioritizing the individual, prioritizing themselves. So I personally have no contention with that. I understand you may have your disagreements about that, but ultimately I believe initially you need to build the city to have people want to move to the city and live together and live in togetherness or harmony. So you need these people, the people that study these STEM degrees, as people who lay the bricks, and then people who do the humanities can help bring it up. So yes, the humanities and arts are important, but ultimately we need people who are engineers, lawyers, and doctors more than we need people who are in gender studies.
What do you have to say to that, T?
All I was saying was based off of they designed the cities, especially like in modern times, for people not to socialize as much. Like I noticed about 10 years ago, they don't have as many like donut shops. Like donut shops, they got rid of donut shops. People used to sit in donut shops like 24 hours out the day. Those things are like 24-hour things. With schools, public schools became charter schools. With charter schools, you don't go to school. Well, in most places, you don't go to school with the people of your neighborhood. You get to choose which school you go to, which in turn, you're really not bonding with the people that you're around. Like, I feel like they put in certain institutions to keep us separated, no matter how it's designed.
No, I agree. William, T. Williams, let me ask you a question. New Orleans or somewhere in Louisiana?
Could I say something?
No, you can't. He was asking me a question.
Yeah.
Just Dave in the comments. He seems to really want to come up.
You can wait, Adam. God damn.
Yeah, hold on, Adam. Give me a second. T, you from Louisiana?
I'm from New Orleans.
No, yeah, I heard it. I heard it. Yeah, all right, but yeah, that's what I wanted to ask T. But yeah, you're absolutely correct, T, because of even the way that your city was built. New Orleans used to be a city where, especially the French Quarter, where people would come together, right? But then when cars started coming by, they kind of built the cities to people to not interact like that anymore. Now, Adam, I do understand what you mean. I'm gonna bring Dave up in a second, but I do understand what you mean, Adam. By you like individualism. At a certain point, individualism is okay, and individualism is important, right? But however, the type of individualism we have today is not just individualism for understanding yourself and being independent, which is an idea that comes from the humanities. The individualism we have today is selfishness and corrosive and divisiveness, essentially, where everything is a zero-sum game, and society simply doesn't work that way. Does that make sense, Adam? And Adam, we have 1 minute with you. Dave, I know you want to come up, but give me a second because
Can I add one more thing before Adam lands?
Sure.
So his take on it, you can look at places like India, but they've been teaching engineering in the schools like since these kids are 3 and 4 years old. But still, as a society, they not really progressing like they should. It's tons of engineers in India.
India is one of the most fastest growing economies in the world.
Yeah, it's one of the.
India is one of the most. I'm sorry for slipping on my words, but it's one of the most fastest growing economies in the world.
Yeah, but it doesn't reflect their society. It's probably a limited, a certain percentage, like you have in the United States, of people that benefit from that. But if you look at how it's designed and the people's progression, it doesn't really benefit them. They have tons of engineers there. That's mainly what they try to produce in India is engineers and doctors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they will go to the United States and Europe.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
it should benefit their own country.
Exactly.
Yeah, because the money is not as good as in India.
Right. I mean, it's not just the money is not as good in India. Like this is how you said the India is one of the fastest growing economies on the planet, right? But that's built on very very shaky ground because if you go to a lot of their cities aren't built very well. But not only that, just like how you pointed out, Adam, there's a massive brain drain problem. You see what I'm saying? And one of the reasons there's a massive brain drain problem is because of how rigid the society is, like the caste system. The caste system in India is one of the things that hold them back the most, but they don't get rid of it because they're more focused on engineering than they are humanities.
I'd say the caste system is just ingrained into the culture that I come from, not India, but around that part of the world. And I'd say in India, it's very much just ingrained into the society. It's existed for hundreds of years. And in all honesty, I don't believe there to be anyone radical enough to try and reform it.
I mean, I think it can be reformed if there's a.
India is the most.
Give me a second, Glizzy. Give me a second, Glizzy. I think it can be reformed if they actually think about what the caste system does, and does it even make sense to even have? Because I don't think it does. Can everybody give me a second real quick, because Akbar has been very, very patient, and he had a question for me. Be patient for me, everybody. Akbar, what was your question? I'm sorry I got to you late.
I didn't really have a question. I wanted to just chime in early in the conversation to say, I mean, people who work in STEM only make up, I believe it's 24, 25% of the workforce. The overwhelming amount of Americans don't work in STEM, and these are, like the host said, important degrees. Education, important fields, education, science, like the host said, public administration, history, philosophy, sociology, anthropology, all these things.
Visa holders are
my guy.
Gotcha. Hey, Glizzy is one at a time. Is one at a time.
Can I respond to that?
So these are all important fields that make up the overwhelming majority of our workforce, right? It's not STEM, and out of the people who actually get their degrees in STEM, only a very small minority of those people end up working directly in STEM. Most of them will end up working middle skill, mid-management roles. Only a small minority actually work in STEM. A lot of STEM is made up of people who didn't get their degrees in STEM, and don't have a background in it, or they got their degrees but they don't have college degrees. Period. So I think it's good that we invest in STEM, sure, but it's also good that we invest in these other careers, so that these people don't end up with quote unquote useless degrees. So let's make sure that if you're going to school, you're studying something, that you have a future and you have things that you can aspire towards upon getting that degree.
Adam, it is great to have a conversation with you, but I do have to move on. I am going to go ahead and give you the last word, and I know you're going to want to jump on it, but go ahead and give us the last thing that you want to say, Adam, and I have to move on. All right? But I appreciate you being up here.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I just want to say about Akbar's points about 24% of people study STEM, actually do STEM related fields. I think that's the reason why. That's probably why the majority of Americans are economically deprived, because a lot of them aren't in high earning fields such as STEM or law, or these type of fields where they can make more money. And ultimately, in capitalist societies, it's about the amount of money you can make. So if the more money you make is more how economically successful you are, and that's basically the better quality of life that you will be able to live. And regarding the fact that you said a lot of people that study STEM degrees don't all go on to study STEM-related fields, I said that I think that's a lot to do with the value of college, the value of STEM degrees in general, or the value of a lot of degrees. So yeah, I think definitely there needs to be a lot of educational reform, but I still struggle to understand the value in a free college. But thank you, Volsey. I'll be helping out.
I'm sorry to interrupt before I know I haven't been introduced yet, but some of my thoughts were in direct response to some of Adam's thoughts that I wanted to discuss.
All right,
I'm hoping you're not going to drop him after he has his final thoughts. I know you said you wanted to move on, but you brought me up. But
I got you, Dave. Go ahead and say what you wanted to say, and then I'll move on to the next guest.
Do you have any, just questions for me on your panel? Just as I'm coming up, just make sure I follow the TikTok protocol. 40 years old, California, any of the other things you need to know?
Yeah, I just want to know if you disagree with anything I had on the board.
Well, no, I don't. I don't disagree with anything you had on the board. I think you and I are on the same page there, but I had some things that Adam said that I wanted to challenge directly.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
All right, so...
Actually, I'm sorry. Can you give me one? Can you give me 1 second, Dave? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Handle.
Yeah, Glizzy, are you over 18, and do you disagree with anything I have on the board? All right. Hey,
only I. Convo. I just want to reparations. Can we just go over number 9?
Yeah, I got you. I'll get to you right after Dave. And or is that how you say your name? The person with the green profile. Is your name Or?
Yeah, it is.
Gotcha. Okay. Are you over 18 and do you disagree with anything I have on the board?
Over 18, and I agree with everything on the board.
Gotcha. W based Or. All right, Dave. You wanted to challenge Adam directly. I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys about 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna go ahead and move on.
Sounds good.
Go ahead.
That sounds like a plan. All right. So I want to say, Adam, first of all, I was a little confused why you were combining STEM with law. Can you maybe just give me like a 30-second elevator pitch, since we are limited in time? Why are you putting those two things together in how you are equating education? Can you just real quick? Why are those two things? Why you think those are priority?
Both of them have incredibly high earning potential.
Okay, so you're about earning potential. Okay, that was less than 30 seconds. You're about earning potential. Okay, so one of the things that I do want to express, that I'm coming from the position of, I've been in language and literature educator for over 10 years. I also have a degree in biology. I have combined the sciences and the humanities in my style of education. And there's lots of value in the humanities that I just want to say, on the surface, you are immediately dismissing. You are like right out the bat, it sounds like, from me listening to you the last 10 minutes or so, like you're just being like, there's no value in the humanities. And dude, I disagree harsh. Harsh do I disagree. Like, for example, I've been working on a video essay series. Please, everybody, check out my profile. My YouTube channel's on there. Quick pitch. But specifically going into a deep dive about how our mythological stories from various cultures have affected and influenced what we do today, right? Seeing the connections of these things from the ancient world all the way up to the 1900s, there's value in that, and I'm wondering why you're dismissing it.
That's purely humanities. What has that got to do with STEM? And additionally, I never said humanities hold no value whatsoever.
Sure, but you said we should be focusing on STEM and law because that's where the money is.
Precisely, that we need more
So
people.
is money the only thing that matters for our progress?
Sorry?
Is money the only thing that is important to you in our progress? Is whether or not this educational pathway is profitable, that's what matters to you?
Oh yeah, primarily yes, because I believe that if you have a good income, you're making good money, then you are free. Because the more money you have, the more free you are to do basically. Money is freedom.
Oh man, and there's the argument that the humanities is going to come at you with: is are you really free because you have more money? No, I feel like that's where the humanities comes in and says, wait a minute, are you maybe being a slave to the money? Right? Are you free?
Okay.
Are you really breaking chains, or are you dedicating yourself to a different master? But I'm saying that's the value of the humanities. The humanities asks those questions. We go into exploration of not just are we making money at this, but why is that important?
Okay, I mean, I believe STEM and law to be important because when you have engineers that are making things, when you have doctors who are curing people, when you have lawyers which are defending people in court,
I'm not saying those things are not important.
I never said you said that. I believe those are some of the most fundamental
Why would we sacrifice the humanities to emphasize these things? Why would we eliminate one part of education in respect for another? I'm asking you that question.
Because one,
I'll actually drop. But another thing I want to add is you also want these people who work in STEM, you want people in general to somewhat care about what they're doing. You don't want people funneling into one specific career path because of financial incentives.
That's how you get Riri Williams making a deal with Mephisto.
I want my doctor to actually care about
Sorry, Marvel joke.
my doctor to actually
I was just making a Marvel joke. I apologize.
No, not a problem. Yeah, actually, I was gonna chime in real quick, but I thank you for bringing that up, Akbar, because you're going into the same thing that I was thinking about. Adam, for example, let's say we have a society of, let's say, 45% doctors, right? Sounds great earning potential. What if those 45% doctors don't give a damn about what the harm that they cause? Do you think that's going to be bad for society?
Well, what harm are they causing by curing their patients?
Let's say this, right? Let's say they don't care about curing their patients. Like, for example, in America today, we have a huge issue with racism in the healthcare system, right? Where black women are more likely to pass away even if they have the same health insurance, the same resources as a white woman. Another thing that we found out that black babies are more likely to unalive if they're taken care of with a white doctor than they are with a black doctor. You see what I'm saying? So the humanities can actually dispel a lot of racist beliefs, right? But if we don't have that in a society, or it's lessened in society, and then we have 45% of doctors who think a certain ethnic group can take the pain and therefore don't administer anesthesia or don't care about the harm that they cause them, do you think that's going to be good for society?
I believe those.
I mean, this may be
because every doctor.
I don't know if this is on the right track.
Hold on, give me a second, Dave. Give me a second, Dave. I want to hear Adam's answer.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So in regards to when you said when doctors don't care about curing their patients, I'd say those aren't really doctors, because every doctor takes the Hippocratic oath, which means that they pledge their life to
do no harm, right?
Humanity.
Exactly,
yes, but
Adam,
to kill people.
Adam,
and if they are not doing that, I do not consider those people doctors.
Gotcha. But Adam, the Hippocratic oath, where does that come from?
I think that was something Hippocrates made quite a few years ago.
I understand, but the subject that comes from, what subject is that? That's humanities.
Yeah.
So you're gonna need humanities, bro.
Which is
where
sure.
I never said
do a lot of my education.
I said they are less useful.
But how is it? How is it? Yes,
that's what I'm challenging.
Right. How is it less useful?
That's what I'm challenging, that they are less useful.
Right. But how is it less useful, Adam, if the profession that you say should exist needs it?
Well,
if we cannot progress without having an understanding of the humanities, like, for example, you said STEM and law. If we don't have an understanding of the humanities, how can we apply STEM and law for the betterment of humanity? That's what I'm trying to tell you, is the fact that you are trying to elevate either of those two things above any other educational discipline is kind of fucking ridiculous, dude.
Can we talk about reparations, please?
Well,
yeah, Glizzy, I got you, but all right, guys, Dave, Adam, I really appreciate y'all, but I do gotta move on.
Yeah,
I do gotta move on. I do appreciate y'all, though.
Yeah, okay.
If I'm able to contribute to something else cool,
you can come on up. Come back up. Yeah.
I'm happy to be a part. But yeah, no, thank you for giving me my moment, because I wanted to defend the humanities. I felt that what Adam was saying about the humanities was
I never called them useless, Dave. I said they were less essential.
I appreciate it.
So,
all right,
yeah,
Adam, I do got to move on, all right? But I do appreciate you being up here.
You had me on there for a while.
Not a problem. Please go ahead and stay up. Appreciate you. Akbar, I'm going to drop you just for a little bit. If you do want to come back up, go ahead and come back up. I just don't want it to be too cluttered, all right?
You're a good host. I gave you a follow, and I do want to commend your patience. I think you're an excellent host. So have a good one.
Not a problem. I appreciate you, though, Akbar. All right, guys. Keep going ahead and liking the live and sharing it. We're going to talk to Glizzy and Vochi. I'm sorry, Vachi. I'm sorry. Can you say? I'm sorry. What's your name? Vadehi. I'm sorry I butchered your name. I apologize for that.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay.
All right, Vadehi, are you over 18, and do you disagree with anything on the board, or you want to add?
Well, I'm over 18. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to piggyback off of what you mentioned with the hospital and healthcare system.
Okay, gotcha. I appreciate you. All right, so go ahead and stay up, because I'm pretty sure either Glizzy or Or are going to address that as well. So go ahead and stay up for me. I'm just go ahead and talk to Glizzy real quick. And Or, thank you for being patient. I'm going to get you right after I talk to Glizzy, okay? All right, Glizzy, kind of a crazy name, but you are over 18 and you want to talk about reparations. What did you want to talk about?
Yeah, I agree. With everything else, I'm pretty on board, but I just want to understand. I just want you to want to understand reparations. So, as a white man, and why, what can I do? What does that mean for most people? What are you expecting or looking for, and where does that come? They don't talk about this a lot, and I just want to hear it from. I feel like this is a pretty good little platform to talk about it.
Yeah, I got you. All right. If you are a YT person, the only thing I that kind of supports reparations, I would always say make sure you do your research, because there are people who are going to call you to task on why reparations should happen, right?
Yeah.
So I would say do all the research that you can, and know that reparations will not only be for slavery; it'll be for things that happen after that, the effects of slavery. Also know that a lot of those effects from slavery still last to today.
That's
See what I mean?
That's a
So-
really good point. Okay, and again, I don't mean to cut you off. This is like I'm completely ignorant to this, and I want to understand more about reparations. And I also thought it has more to do with the time frame after slavery than it does with actual slavery. But maybe I'm wrong. But anyways, I'm not going to cut you off again.
Yeah, all good. Yeah. Now it does have to do with slavery as well, right? Slavery is probably like majority of it, probably like 50 to 60%. But the other part of it, the other half, is everything that happened afterwards. You see what I'm saying? So we need to we have to understand like slavery and how horrific it was, which we kind of would never know, but also the effects of it afterwards. Like, what did it cause to African American people in our society? Because it's because of slavery that we even have the criminal stereotype of African American men, right? So you need to take all that into consideration if you're gonna support it. And also, if they're gonna ask you how exactly does it get paid for and everything like that, make sure that you're informed about that as well. How it gets paid for, what are the proposals, and what else goes into it. Not just the monetary aspect of it, but the systemic part of it as well. Because even though you were to give people a bunch of money, if you don't change the system of schooling, if you don't change environmental racism, exactly, if you don't change the financial system and how it discriminates against black people, then like it doesn't really solve everything. You see what I'm saying?
So in the format of getting, say say there's a fund created, in the format of getting financially reparations like established, I feel like you just hit on like how is this like what's the I guess the like I don't know the
proposals.
How's it going to be proposed and accepted? Like what's the because there's got to be a lot of understanding around it, right? You can't just here's a bunch of payment and then a lot of people don't know what this was, what it was. Like how do we get beyond that? I guess.
Gotcha. When slavery ended, right? When slavery ended, we're in the antebellum era. There was something actually called the Freedmen's Bank. Right, the Freedmen's Bank was a banking system that was set up for newly freed slaves, for black people to get a financial or an economic base for themselves. Of course, the Freedmen's Bank was not well funded, not well administered, and people ran off with the plug. Right, so we can set that up again. The Freedmen's Bank is something that can be set up as a black bank to specifically serve the African American community. Right. That could be set up in African American communities across America, the Freedmen's Bank and the Freedmen's Bureau, as a matter of fact. That could be another branch of the government, of the Freedmen's Bureau, to deal with the contemporary issues of African Americans, right? Those are two ways you can do it. And the reparations can be administrated through those agencies. You see what I'm saying? Because, of course, I've seen like proposals of reparations being anywhere from 5 to 10 to even $60 trillion. 60 may be not possible. It's not for me to decide, but it may not be possible in the reality of it. You see what I'm saying? But
not somewhere once, probably, but maybe
not all at once, exactly. But over time, it can be. You see what I'm saying? Even if it takes even if it takes like 100 years, over time
No,
it
it's like,
can.
you know,
See what I'm
just so
saying?
everyone that is expecting, so the term reparations, right? I think laying straight what people should expect, I think you're really articulating it well in what, you know, if we want to like what should be expected, what should happen. I think I never really considered that. I think that sounds very reasonable, but you know, that's what I'm saying. Like I don't know what is expected and what's expected of me as a YT, and you know, I just. But it, you know, if this is
Oh yes, support and knowledge. I mean, so support and knowledge. So support it, become knowledgeable on it, and therefore, when people ask you about it, you'll be able to defend it, and who knows, you may be able to change some minds. Yeah, you know what I mean, like so.
course,
Those
you know,
are some
you
ways.
know, I gotta say, you know, looking at the amount of money that we spend and we send to a lot of other causes, I think that the community in this country, there's no reason not to have some funds going to this. Something like you're saying, I think it sounds reasonable as hell. But asking, my ignorant thought before was just, all right, well, who's going to pay? Like, who wants to get money, and why do they want to receive the money? And I just want the conversation to go, and I want to understand what the real conversation on reparations is. And I think I appreciate what you've said.
All right.
I have nothing against it.
All right, not a problem. I appreciate you being up, Glizzy. All right, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to say your name again. Vadahi, right?
You can just call me Valencia.
Valencia. You wanted to add on to what I was talking about with the racism in the medical system. Yeah, and or I'm gonna get to you. I need. I know Vada, you wanted to say something, but that was an old conversation. But go ahead, Vada. Go ahead, Valencia.
So yes, about what you said, that is very much true, because me being a black woman living in this country, and I have 2 autoimmune disorders, and I have so many problems that come in and out. And when I stay, like, I go 15 minutes up the road, maybe like 20, and I get treated like a drug addict when I don't even be asking for painkillers and stuff like that, and I be having serious problems. I have to go an hour away just to even be properly seen.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's astonishing just how the medical racism be real.
Yeah, medical racism is a very serious issue that people either don't know, don't care. I think a lot of folks just don't care, because even when I let them know what it is, they come up with excuses for it, right? So it's a very real issue that we do need to somehow, some way deal with. You know what I mean? Because it's going to it affects people. It affects your fellow Americans, and the fact that it affects your fellow Americans, and a lot of people still. Matter of fact, this reveals to me like the absurdity of white supremacy, right? Because even white people don't believe that it could be so cartoonishly evil. Because no one can think of, if you were a doctor, you spent all those years being a doctor and knowing how to take care of people. Who would become a doctor just to harm black people? Like, it doesn't make sense to somebody, right? But that's how absurd white supremacy is, that even white people don't understand it. You see what I'm saying? That's how absurd it is. So that's why I do lives like these to, educate and teach people and let them know that this is what's happening is actually real. You know what I mean? But Valencia, I'm gonna let you down. I do gotta talk to the rest real quick, but I appreciate you being here. Definitely come on through next time whenever you can. All right, guys, I did say I'm gonna end early tonight. All right, but I'm gonna go through this really quickly, or I'm gonna get to you and Dino. You're probably gonna be my last guest. Give me do the one thing. Or Chosen, are you over 18, and do you disagree with anything I have on the board?
Yeah, I disagree with everything you have on the board, and I'm 68 from Minnesota.
Gotcha. I knew Dino, but Chosen, how about you?
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
I'm over 18, and me personally, I disagree with not everything on the board, but most of it, and and for different reasons. Mainly, the main reason I disagree with most of it.
All right, hold on, Chosen. Hold on, Chosen. Let me talk to Orr first, because Orr has been here for at least 30 minutes, and he's been very, very patient. All right, Orr, I do appreciate you being patient with me. You did say that you are over 18 and you disagree with something on the board. What did you disagree with and why?
I agree with everything.
Oh, you agree with everything?
Yeah, I do.
All right, cool. I could go ahead and move on to Chosen. I do appreciate you being patient with me.
I just wanted to make a point.
Sure.
So I'm Jewish, so I want to frame this with Torah. In the Torah, there was Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And in the Garden of Eden, they saw everything as one and complete unity. And then later in the book of Deuteronomy, it instructs that God is one and complete unity and to love God with all of your heart. So I think a lot about what's taught in Torah and how a lot of indigenous American and African societies were structured with relationship to nature. Like, being that they viewed nature as one with them, and we view nature as one with us, or nature's one with everything. So kind of given that understanding, like how do we rebuild philosophy, education, and all these structures with the idea in mind that we're one with nature?
Oh yeah, as a matter of fact, that's a very good point, because in one thing I've seen is that in Eastern philosophy it's typically bottom up, and in Western philosophy it's top down. The way that we think about the supernatural and stuff like that. Now I'm not a believer, right? I'm not a believer, but I do appreciate a lot of the. I would guess, for lack of a better word, the animism that exists in, indigenous and African religions, because it's more about being part of a community. And there is a supreme God somewhere, but that supreme God is not interacting with, human affairs. What matters with human affairs is how we treat each other, and how we're in community with each other, and how we treat nature. You know what I'm saying? That's how, like, African religions typically operate. You see what I'm saying? And how you respect your ancestors and stuff like that. You feel me? So that's why I kind of appreciate those more than the Abrahamic religions, even though I do know the Jewish tradition is a lot more diverse than what we hear about, if that makes sense. But go ahead and stay up for me. We'll talk more. I want to get to Chosen and Dino next. Chosen, you did say that you disagree with basically everything I have on the board. Why do you disagree?
It's not that I necessarily disagree with the concept of everything we have on the board. It's that I disagree that they're gonna do anything about any of those issues.
Okay, I got you. They use these issues to divide us. Gotcha.
Correct. They use them to divide us and control us, and put themselves into power. I'll just pick one. Guaranteed housing. It sounds good. I love it. Let's go get for guaranteed housing for everyone. But we know from history that and this isn't even limited to any particular race. This is everyone. Period. If they have that much power over us to where we're dependent on them for where we live all across the board, what do you think they're going to do with it? You know what I mean? They're going to control us. And that's my problem with all of this, because it's all meant to create them in a place of more power over us and put us in a position where we're dependent on them all the way across the board. So that's why I disagree with it all. It's not that of course I want to have a living wage. Of course I think we should have free college. Of course I think people should have guaranteed housing, but these people aren't going to use that in the right way. They're going to use it to control us and to give themselves more power. Reparations too. It's a carrot. They just keep dangling it over people's heads. I believe they should have gave black people reparations years ago, because they promised it to them. It was something that was told they was going to get. 40 acres and a mule. What are they going to give them now? 40 acres and a Lambo? I mean, you see what I'm saying? But it's something that was promised to them. So it's not like I'm against these things, but it's like I don't.
Are they actually possible to do?
It's not even that they're not possible to do. It's that they're not going to do it. They're using this as a means for control and power, man. All of these issues, and climate, and the ones that aren't up there too, like climate change and other things. They're using these things as vehicles to give themselves more power. They're not even. They don't have no plans on fixing these things. Because if they did, what would they run on?
Gotcha. No, I understand where you're coming from. You know what I mean? Now, I do think there needs to be like a general revolution all over the elites that run the country. The billionaires, the politicians who are in their pockets. The banks that control all this stuff. All of that needs to go down, right? Which is why I've become a lot more critical of capitalism over the last few years, because that's what they use to amalgamate all their power. You see what I'm saying? But I do agree with, I do see where you're coming from. It's not that you disagree that these are good things. It's that you don't think that they'll happen. And I get that. But that's why I think that we should keep pushing for it, because the more people agree with it, the more we could sway a critical mass and possibly revolutionize it on this planet. But Chosen, I do got to get out of here fast. Thank you for being up here, though. I'm gonna move. I'm gonna drop you real quick because I got to get to Dino and the next people. But go ahead and give me a follow, and we'll keep talking. All right? I appreciate you, though.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Not a problem. All right, Dino and Not What You Think. Those you're gonna be the last one. I promise. All right, Dino. We have. Let's do 10 minutes on the board. Let's go ahead and talk. You said you disagree with something. Why? What do you disagree with, and why?
Well, I'm a little like what your last caller was saying. It'd be great if people were all perfect and nobody was greedy, and it'd be nice to have all those things. But unfortunately, that isn't the way it is. Capitalism and this country, the economic system, and the freedoms that we have as individuals have lifted more people out of poverty than any other system that's ever come across this planet to this time. So, and that's what this country's based on, is individual rights, individual freedoms. We're not a collective.
I got you. Have you ever heard of Thomas Sankara from Burkina Faso?
No.
Okay. There's a reason for that. Thomas Sankara, he instituted something called African socialism in Burkina Faso, right? That's an African country. Within 4 years of his presidency, he was able to raise literacy from 40% to 90%. Half of his government were women. He was able to build a whole bunch of roads, get plumbing for Burkina Faso, and nationalize a bunch of industries, and was able to rise millions of people out of poverty faster than the United States was. And he did it using socialist policies. Do you know what happened to Thomas Sankara?
Probably got killed.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's exactly what happened to him. You're right. The French and the CIA plotted to assassinate him. And the reason why is because they did not want socialism to succeed. Anytime a socialist experiment is started by another country, America or France or the UK, they immediately go in to try to stop it. The only people that haven't done that too was China.
What was the size of that country?
Burkina Faso? Burkina Faso is probably one of the biggest countries in Africa. I think it's right now the population is about 25 to 30 million at the moment.
Yeah, well, about less than 10% of what we've got.
Yeah, less than 10% of what we got. But the issue is that if we actually address poverties of people, I said poverties, if we actually address people's material conditions, we can actually do a lot of these things that seem to be socialist, right? The only reason why we don't do it is because it's not profitable. We can have guaranteed housing, and America makes enough food to feed the planet. The only reason why we throw away hundreds of pounds of food a day is because it's not profitable.
Yeah. Well, you do have to pay. You have to at least make a little something over what it costs you to produce goods.
I don't have any issues with that, right? The issues that I have is that you can make a profit from producing goods. Like, for example, if I make this remote for $10, I'm probably going to sell it for $15, right? Just to make a little bit of what I made back. I don't have a problem with that. The issue that I have a problem with is the way that we run things in America is that if things can be good for humans, things can be good for our material conditions. If we can alleviate poverty and do all these things that will actually make society better and lessen the crime rate, lessen the literacy rate, and all these other health and contemporary issues, but it's not done simply because I can't charge more for it, then I have an issue with that, especially when we see issues like, for example, the best example I can give, or best example I give right now, is the Ford Pinto. You heard about the Ford Pinto, right?
The Ford Pencil?
Yeah, the Ford Pinto. It was a car. It was a car back in I think the early 90s or the late 80s, early 90s. The Pinto had an issue, right? The Pinto had an issue where.
Yeah,
Pinto.
I remember the Pinto.
Exactly. So that company knew that people would die from that car, right? But they rather make the money and pay everybody off than actually fix the issue. That's the issue I have with the profit motive. The profit motive doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but somehow, some way, is always going to force people to pick money over the lives of people. And I don't think we should value currency over people's lives.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing is, you've got people like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers that, that have had money for generations, for hundreds of years. And, they want everybody.
Ooh, I think he lost signal. I think Dino lost signal. That's a shame. I think Dino lost signal. All right, Dino, if you can come on back up whenever you can. All right, shoot me a follow. I'll let you back up. All right, now what you think? You're going to be my last guest, my last and final guest, and I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. All right, so not what you think. You did say that you disagreed with some. I did see that you disagreed with something I had on the board. What was it and why? And are you over 18? What happened to not what you think? Not what you think. What happened? I brought you up to debate. All right, Debris. Let's see if you want to be my last guest. All right, y'all. Looks like we ran out of guests, and good timing too, because I did say I was going to get here over here at 9:45. All right, so Debris said this is socialism and beyond. It's actually not. I'm not sure what you think socialism is, but universal health care can happen in capitalist systems. There are capitalist countries that have universal health care. There are capitalist countries that have everything that I'm saying here. All it does is make capitalism more livable. That's all it does. I'm not sure which I think socialism and communism is, but what I have on the board is actually not. Yeah, I agree with that. Bernie Sanders tried, and he's basically the closest that we'll ever get. Gina, what never worked before? Why don't y'all come on up? That's my question. All right, Gina, I'm going to invite you up. I'm going to go ahead and invite Gina up, and if Gina doesn't come up, then I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Yeah, if she doesn't come up, I'm just going to go ahead and get out of here. Yeah, I did say that I was getting off. I had one last person, right? I had one last person, but for some reason they dropped out. I don't know why. I told him that I was going to get to him, and then he just dropped out. But yeah, I am going to go ahead and get out of here, guys. I do appreciate y'all. You see, every time I want to get off, more people come in and want to talk. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here for real. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to redo this topic. What is this? Thursday? I'm going to redo this topic on Saturday. All right, and then Saturday will be the last day I do this topic, and then next week I'm gonna get on religion because I'm a religious critiquer. So go ahead and follow me because I'm gonna go ahead and do this topic again on Saturday, and then next Tuesday we're gonna get on religion. So if you do have religious sensibilities, probably don't join me next week because we are going to be criticizing religion a lot. All right. But I do appreciate y'all. I do appreciate y'all being here. I did make good timing. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. It is 9:45. Yeah, Jerry, I'm gonna keep dreaming. I'm gonna keep dreaming because that's what Journey told me to do. Don't stop believing. But I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here, y'all. And love you all. Be kind to each other. We're all just floating on a rock.